the ISM-New Jersey chairperson of our Supplier Diversity Committee. On behalf of ISM-New Jersey, I would like to welcome you all to today's virtual Supplier Diversity event, including the 3rd annual Supplier Showcase. I would especially like to welcome and thank our corporate sponsors, Corcentric, our title sponsor, ADP and Daiichi Sankyo, our VIP sponsors, PSEG and New York Life, our friend sponsors. We will begin today's session with a presentation by our keynote speaker, Walter Charles, Chief Procurement Officer for CSL Behring, who will speak to us on the topic, Tools and Strategies to Enable a Diverse Supplier Base. His talk will cover challenges of procurement, how to do things differently to make it inclusive, innovative, and diversified. Walter will also share his procurement and front door tools and some success stories. Walter's presentation will be followed by our sponsor spotlight, when you'll be introduced to our generous corporate sponsors who have helped bring today's event to you. The spotlight will be followed by the Supplier Showcase, where 4 diverse suppliers, a certified service-disabled veteran-owned small business specializing in institutional brokerage and capital services, an LGBT disabled women-owned small business providing strategy, data, and operations consulting, a minority-owned, woman-owned small business marketing and advertising enterprise, and a women-owned disadvantaged business enterprise specializing in spreadsheet outsourcing. Each will present their value proposition, like the 2-minute pitch, in a safe environment, and will have the unique opportunity to receive feedback from our distinguished panel of judges. Our judges are our moderator, Marisol Ramirez, the Supplier Diversity Manager for PSEG, who will be joined by Laurinda Thomas, Senior Director Sourcing at ADP Supplier Diversity and Vendor Assurance, and Francisco Cortez, the CEO and Chairman of the global multicultural communications firm, the Setroc Group. For the initial part of this program, we ask that all attendees remain muted in listen-only mode unless you're speaking, but we do encourage you all, procurement and supplier diversity professionals and all the other diverse suppliers, to participate. Share your thoughts and comments with our presenters and the panelists and the committee members by using the chat feature. 2 members of our Supplier Diversity Committee, Kim Castellucci and Vicky Yosh, will be monitoring the chat, reading the questions and comments throughout the event. After the Supplier Showcase, we will open the mics and provide all attendees the opportunity to ask questions directly if you choose, or you can continue to use the chat. Finally, after the event, all attendees will receive an email with links to apply for continuing education credits, and it will also contain links with additional information for all the diverse suppliers who applied for this year's showcase, including our 4 presenters. We look forward to spending an exciting next couple of hours together. We look forward to your participation throughout the session via the chat, to an open discussion when all the mics will be open, and to meeting together in person at our first live networking events since the start of the pandemic, which will be on May 8th at the Hanover Marriott Hotel. More about this later. It is now my privilege to introduce our keynote speaker, Walter Charles. Walter Charles is an internationally sought after speaker and CPO after having been either a vice president, senior vice president, or chief procurement officer at 6 Fortune companies, including Kellogg's, Kraft Foods, Biogen, Allergan, J&J Consumer Supply, Cortes, a J&J medical device company, and now at CSL Behring. Because of those multi-sector experiences, he's an extraordinarily accomplished serial CPO, and because Kellogg's is among the companies he's worked for, he's also a serial CPO. Hope you all got that. Walter has a solid track record of driving the transformation of procurement organizations, helping to elevate customer focus of this important function and realization of its business value. An engineer by training, Walter holds both a Bachelor of Science and a master's degree in engineering. Additionally, Walter has an MBA in General Management from Columbia University. Please join me in a virtual strong welcome for Walter Charles.
Thank you very much, Gladys. I appreciate the welcome, and I hope people got the pun on the cereal and serial. I'm delighted to be here today and honored to share one guy's perspective around diversity. And what I did in advance of coming here, I actually phoned a friend, a very awesome company owner and founder that I used to work with at J&J, and I'm going to give her a shout out during the process because she actually provided me with a lot of data in the diversity space that I think you guys could benefit from. So today, as promised, and I'll layer in there some of the challenges and some of the opportunity things there, but I'll talk about background, real world case study, because I think a lot of my best learnings have come from actual interactions with real people trying to solve the problem. So I'll share the most compelling one that I have in the diversity space. Then I'll share the industry diversity data that's out there and why it matters. I'll talk about next generation tools and strategies to get after it, and then obviously Q&A. So that's the gist of today's talk, and I'm again excited to be here. So first, you got to give the legal disclaimer, right? I would be remiss in I have to do that as a function of doing the display here, but I will tell you that the majority of the opinions and insights are my own, right? And so, but we do have some company data that I'm also going to share so folks know who we are. All right, so my background. I'm a serial CPO. I've been either a vice president or senior vice president or chief procurement officer at the top 6 logos that are listed there below my picture across multiple sectors. And obviously I've got a bachelor's of science and engineering at the U.S. Marine Academy. That also probably means I'm a naval officer, ex-naval officer. I've got a master's in engineering and then an MBA from Columbia University. So teams that I've led, importantly, have been known to have sourced baby oil all the way to Botox. So depending on where you are in your life's journey, I probably had you covered. Right? So that's the first takeaway there. Now, who is CSL Behring? Most people don't know who we are, and I'll share with you a little bit about the company. We operate in 35 plus countries where we've got operations. We're a $10.3 billion annual revenue company, $100 billion plus market cap business. We invest heavily in research and development to get after a new product innovation in the space of pharma. We have 25,000 employees, roughly 1,700 of them are in R&D, and we have 300 plus, 308 in the US plasma collection centers, but roughly 340 and change where we collect plasma to get after the life-saving medicines that we generate for the business. All right, so there are our locations. You'll have the deck. We're segregated in 3 different buckets: CSL Behring, CSL Plasma, and Securis. Securis is the former Novartis vaccines business that was acquired by us, and it is a huge contributor to our success, particularly in the most recent couple of years, because vaccines has taken off tremendously. But I actually am honored to run now. So the new announcement, used to be the senior vice president, chief procurement officer at CSL Behring. I'm now the global general manager for CSL Plasma, which is the 16,000 person operation located here in Boca Raton, Florida, where I am now working on my tan. That's a diversity joke if you didn't get it, sorry. All right, so those that actually have a video that's working, you get the joke. Those that don't, I'll continue on. All right, this is kind of what we have from a background perspective, and this is what plasma does. Plasma is used in a treatment for bleeding disorders, including hemophilia, von Willebrand disease, primary immune deficiencies, hereditary angioedema, and respiratory disease and neurological diseases. And so roughly there's about 100 different diseases that today are derived from plasma that are needed to save lives or improve the quality of lives of people suffering from diseases like the ones I've mentioned. And so it's also plasma-derived therapies are also used in cardiac surgery, organ transplantation, burn treatment, and hemolytic diseases in newborns. All right, so the ask that I'll have from you, since I'm now the general manager of plasma, is get out there and donate, save lives. You can do it too. and don't just let the firemen do all the life saving. We'd appreciate you finding a center proximate to where you live, and joining us on that case today. Now let's get to the story at hand. Right, so I'll start with this one. First, diversity matters. These are the 4 buckets that I'll elucidate as we go through this. One, it's a $4 trillion market opportunity. So if you are a business that has customers, the aggregate spending value of customers that are of diverse backgrounds is about $4 trillion a year. Massive number. And I'll give you a click down on some of the data there. Diversity diversity matters because it increasingly matters with your employees, right? If you are an employer and your workforce is rapidly diversifying, it absolutely matters to the folks you have on. So developing, growing, and retaining those folks, critically important. Obviously, to win the war on talent and to attract the best talent, you're going to need to fix and get after hiring in diverse pools, and also to combat the great resignation, which we're in the midst of now. You're going to end for that war on talent. You're going to need to get after it. And then this is the one that most people don't talk about, which I think is actually the most compelling one. If you've got managers who are not used to dealing with, working with, developing, retaining, growing people that don't look like them, it is the single largest management challenge we've got in business. And with that, I'll actually go to the next slide and share with you a personal story first about this gentleman. This gentleman is a guy by the name of Bill Weldon. He was the former CEO at Johnson & Johnson in New Jersey, one of the companies I had the privilege of working. And Bill was looking at statistics of folks coming in, and first he got concerned. And let me give you some context. At the time I was working at J&J around 2006, we had over 100,000 employees. So just give you a scale of Johnson & Johnson, 100,000 employees plus. And he was looking at these data. He said, look, 95% of the director level and above jobs at J&J were from a 33% demographic, white males within the business. Right, that was the first kind of time that I think any senior leader had actually meaningfully communicated it out loud, and said, yeah, there's something wrong with this picture. Secondly, greater than 50% of the hires, the new hires that were coming in the business in 2006, were joining something called employee resource groups. So they were basically self-identifying as African American, Hispanic, women, Asian, or LGBTQ. And he was saying, wow, that is a massive influx of people that are historically different from the people that are driving the bus above director level, right? And then he started to look at the data. On the acquisition side, he saw that, wow, the slates had underrepresentation of people that were diverse. And he was actually looking at the African American group because of those groups, he saw that there were specific acute anomalies that he wanted to try to address. And by the way, so what he did was he actually called a group of African American VP level players, of which I was privileged to be a VP back then. And he called us to a nice restaurant in the shadows of the New Brunswick corporate towers to kind of have this conversation, which I was compelled by. But he said, slates are underrepresented, new hires are down, development opportunities don't seem to be equally distributed to African-American talent within the ecosystem, which is driving performance ratings being skewed to the lower end, and it's driving promotions slower than the majority demographics. It's the retention for African-Americans within the business was poor. And he said, look, we're not getting any data from exit interviews because African Americans don't want to burn bridges, so they're not telling us what's busted, right? So he said, so I need to figure out how to get after this. And it looks like African Americans employees are not capable or not able to contribute to the maximum extent basis their differences because of dynamic between the 33% demographic that are running things and the fact that these folks are different. Now, this is, the most candid conversation I personally witnessed. And then he pivoted to something that was profound. He said, how many people can we afford to underutilize because they are different? This harkened to there is a management problem that we've got to figure out how to fix. How do we leverage the capabilities and benefits of every individual, irrespective of their difference, towards achieving the company's objectives? Was the mission that he got on. And he assembled, and now unfortunately there was only probably about 15 of us across that 100,000 person swath that were, and it was a mandatory kind of, they called all the a lot of the African Americans that were in the network and said, we need you to fly in if you are not proximate to New Brunswick. But for me, when he said it was a management issue, that was the most, everyone else was talking about diversity in the context of, well, it's the right thing to do. He was saying, if we don't figure out how to leverage everybody's capabilities, when I've got 50% of my people coming in that are historically different from the people that are running the business, I have a train wreck waiting to happen, right? And so for me, that was one of the most profound kind of conversations I had the privilege of having with the senior leaders there. And interestingly, we shared, although there weren't any burned bridges with the HR exit interviews, we all talk with one another. And so when folks leave, they were saying some of the stuff that the data were pointing to. They were saying that, hey guys, I'm leaving because I'm getting passed over for promotions. I'm seeing people that are growing faster than I've grown here. I'm seeing people getting plum assignments, and I'm not seeing the distribution of those plum assignments coming my way as frequently as they are my other folks. So that speaks to discretion being had by leaders driving and influencing the statistics. And so these were interesting deals. And I did hasten to add that these are Walt's impressions, right? This is not the CSL Behring thing. This is kind of Walt's impression of what this is, but the learnings I got from it were profound. All right, so he also then started to ask a bunch of other questions. Are my majority leaders capable of effectively managing people that are different from them? And importantly, people that don't even want to be like them when they grow up, because they can't be like them when they grow up, right? Do my leaders use the right degree of objectivity in handing out discretionary assignments, right? We had back then something called the golden boy, golden girl syndrome, right? So you had certain people always got the plum assignments, right? They happened to look like the people making the decisions, and certain other people didn't, right? And so this objectivity, that's the discretion that's being ceded to the manager staff, is an important determiner for performance outcomes, promotion outcomes, and others. Because if you get the plum assignments, you're likely going to get the promotion, because you'll be able to drive the bigger impacts, right? Are we equipping our leaders with the right information at the point of decision? And so we have this challenge of we all want diversity, we talk about it, but we weren't at the point where someone was going to make a hiring or promotion decision. We weren't sharing with them the data about how the business is, because they were hiding it, how we are performing today, and how the decision they're about to take was going to either make those data better or make those data worse. And because we didn't have a mechanism to share the data on the levels right at the point of decision, people were just making the decision the way they'd always made it. And we were getting the same outcomes we were always getting, right? Which were the same population of people hiring people that look like themselves, right? And then how do we cultivate an inclusive culture to ensure that diverse teams have an equal footing for success in our business, right? And then do we have the right lens for hiring, promotions, inclusion, succession planning? What are we, and then they ask, what are people saying about us, right? If they leave or stay, what are they saying about us? And how do I leverage those conversations to inform, diverse and successful talent strategies for my business, right? And so those were the outcomes from that discussion. And, again, I was in a very small population of people that actually had an opportunity to talk with the CEO of a massive company as he was struggling with how does he run at fixing this. But I think, quite frankly, that same discussion was repeated across most of the companies that I've had the privilege of working in. And we can do better, y'all, is the comment I'd like to make. All right, so industry data to consider. So I called a friend who is a rock star in the diversity space. She runs a company that is called CN Plus, and it's a cultural intelligence AI company. It is a game-changing company. I'll share why. Remember those two questions on the right-hand side are what are people saying about us that I could potentially use to inform my strategy? Well, she said, well, with social media, I can actually mine who's saying what, figure out who they are, and without even asking them a question, infer what that means and then get insights from those data using AI, natural language processing, RPA tools to kind of make it happen. So long and short, Lily Gil Valletta is a co-founder of this company with Enrique. I reached out to Lily, who is a dynamo, rock star, kind of TED Talk delivering, just a wonderfully brilliant woman founder of a company, co-founder of a company. And I said, Lily, I want you to share the cool stuff you've got in your toolkit that most people haven't seen. I want you to share the basics because everyone needs to have the same grounding, but I want you to also share the cool stuff. And she was kind enough to share some stuff with me. And all the stuff that has her name ascribed to it, I'll make sure you guys know. And there's some contact information in there later for her if you want to get to it. So remember, I said we had 95% in 2006 of the people director level above at Johnson & Johnson were of a particular demographic. Well, the data in 2018, this is Census Bureau data about the levels. You can see not a lot of diversification happened. 10% in 10 years, not that good, right? So we're still seeing the same lack of diversity behavior going on across the decision makers in corporate life that are driving these senior level decision-making decisions, which interesting and terrifying at the same time, right? So let's talk to some trends. All right, so what did they do? They did say, well, let me hear what people are talking about diversity at various companies, and let's figure out if we can infer what the difference is. And they actually went out and looked at a bunch of conversations. They then, codified them in topics and tonality, context, and did some psychographic stuff where people identified who they were outwardly. They then, clustered those data and then reported out what the findings were. And I'll give you the summary. And by the way, much celebrated company, CN Plus. You can see all the names they have ascribed where they've been showcased, recommended, or whatever. It's a very cool company. But let's talk about some of the insights. So 28 million plus digital conversations were reviewed as a function of the deal. And then here's the demographic breakdown, right? 32% of them came from message boards and social media networks and topical sites and comments and blogs and reviews. But they were then able to stratify those populations into these buckets basis how old they were, what demographic they sit in, whether they're male or female, and the like. And from that, make inferences, which is game changing in my view, because now you get to kind of aggregate and inform how people think about stuff. And here's some of the findings that you'll only get from these guys because they're the only guys that have the methodology to do it. So for Hispanics, they said they have the most interest in a supportive culture, being 1.4 times more likely than the overall population that was considered, right? So being 1.4 times less likely than overall to focus on work-life flexibility. So they don't really care. That's not really something that they're focusing on, they're commenting on, they're talking about. And basically it reinforces their hard work mentality of making sacrifices, right? Give up the work-life balance, but actually just put a lot of hours in, right? So that's, you know, the takeaway there. African Americans, interesting takeaway, 1.7 times less likely overall to focus on the mission statement of a company. They don't care about the mission necessarily. They care more about, Black Americans care about equally about opportunity, growth, and compensation. Am I being treated fairly? Am I growing at the same rates as my peers? Or am I not? Am I getting the same types of opportunities extended to me as my peers? And that's going to more influence whether I stay or whether I go. And by the way, I would absolutely, I think is probably higher from my perspective on the things that I valued, but I'm aligned with that being an index. And then 1/3 of the conversations include expectation around compensation. So Asian Americans see compensation and the work in the workplace as the top motivating factor, right? And so depending on the population demographics you're looking at, you know, there are insights that can be gleaned from that. And then you've got stuff around millennials and Gen Zs, which I won't really focus on because those typically aren't protected classes, but these are fundamentally different population demographics that you need to be aware of. These guys are driving the new entrants, and they might act more like a millennial or a Gen Z than the demographic that they happen to be from a birthright perspective. So understanding how your various populations are working, informed by those 20 million plus conversations that are happening online, and then mined is a pretty compelling way to think about getting those exit things. So let's give you some other data. America is fast becoming a majority minority nation. Majority minority nation, meaning that by 2040, it's expected, and depending on the things you're looking at, roughly 50-50, 51-49, majority to minority. And so 100% of the population growth in the US is driven by diverse segments, right? So that's a pretty crazy, compelling statement. Back in the day, it was the year 2000 data was talking about how things were diversifying. This is saying, dang it, if I'm going to win for competitors, for talent, I need to be able to mine in the areas where the opportunity, where the people are. And 2040, it's going to be a different world than what we've been accustomed to in the US. By the way, 2040 is now, if you're in California and Texas, the two most populous states in the nation, you know, 2 of the 4 most populous states in the nation. Florida is coming up quick, right? And then New York, where you can see their population demographic is already swinging pretty heavily to majority minority folks. So if you've got if you've got sites, locations in these areas, you're going to be disproportionately indexing to diverse workforce and diverse workforce issues and opportunities basis that. All right, 51%. And so what's the pipeline look like? Where do you get the pipeline for the workforce? Well, you get it from schools. Today, already 51% of the public school population is multicultural. 51%. It's already there. And those folks just need to age into the workforce, right? Go to college and age into the workforce. That is a scary big statistic for some, scary, happily optimistic statistic for others, depending on where you sit on that continuum, right? So, all right. So if, and I'll start with the thing on the right, if multicultural, US multicultural spending were a country, it's first $4 trillion big, and it would be the 4th largest country on the planet, right? So the buying power of these populations, these multicultural populations, is massively huge. And so if you are a company that needs to service those markets and want to avail yourself of that spending power, you should be doing the right thing by the people that you hire. You should be including the right populations of folks so that folks understand that you care about diversity, and you should be creating opportunities to retain, develop, and grow people of diverse backgrounds, because you want to participate disproportionately in that $4 trillion pie of the US economy. It is absolutely astonishingly massive, right? And so African Americans represent 1.3 trillion today, Asians 1 trillion, Hispanics $1.7 trillion, and all of these are growing basis the numbers you saw I shared with you earlier, right? So absolutely massive, and so $4 trillion is a lot of money, maybe it's not a lot of money to Elon, but everyone else is usually a lot of money, right? All right, so sorry. Thank you, Marisol, for at least visually laughing at my poor attempt at humor. So CN Plus is a very cool company that, if you are trying to think through, and I get pitched by a lot of companies, they shared kind of some of their background stuff, and I was absolutely blown away with the amount of granularity that they were able to come up with about, and how that could inform how we can either get after that market or segment our thinking differently to take advantage of the thinking. So that's so CN Plus. Claudia Evans, the chief of staff to Lily, she was kind enough to send me some of those data, but I actually pulled together a bunch of stuff, and this is the stuff that I thought most resonated with me in terms of why it matters and what those four drivers were. Right. So let's talk about next generation tools. Now, I've been a procurement guy for a minute, right? Probably the last 15, 20 years, I've been a procurement guy. Procurement, by the way, is the next largest process, next largest in all of business, at $9 trillion big, 9 trillion a year, right? So, and never before in the annals of business has so much money been controlled by a small a group, like a singular group like ours, right? So you've got $9 trillion mostly being controlled by the Fortune 2,000, 3,000 companies that are driving the bus. And so let's talk about next gen tools, right? So the first thing, and I'll tell you some of the challenges I've had with diversity. The way a lot of diversity stuff worked is we would basically get a diversity target set by the federal government, submit our paperwork, and then, by the way, about halfway through the year, I'd get people compiling all the data in a room to try to figure out if we even had a snowball's chance of actually delivering. We didn't really have a prescriptive or a process-driven way to include systemically diverse suppliers on the bids that were going on in procurement. It was more like a report and hope that it would be sufficiently okay. If that and by the way, I've worked at a lot of companies, as you saw, that scramble was representative of most of those companies, right? So let me tell you what we did to fix some of that stuff, right? In order to get diverse suppliers in the mix, you first got to be able to see the opportunity, right? And so what does that mean? Let me give you some context. Of the 5,000 deals that I did at Allergan when I was there with Bo and 5,000 deals that year, around 50% of them, we only had less than 10 days to actually turn around a contract. If you don't have enough time to actually, first, you don't see it because the stakeholder went around you, did a self-serve thing, didn't use procurement to begin with, right? So that's the first failure mode. The second failure mode is if they didn't go around you, they called you at the last minute and said, hey, I need this yesterday, and this is a supplier I really want you to think about getting after. I see Laurinda nodding her head in the affirmative. Sound familiar? Yes, right? So long and short, you need time to be able to then, first you need to see the opportunity, and you need time to be able to include diverse suppliers to get after it. We actually bolted on a solution called EP squared. At Biogen, we call it the 60/60 tool, same technology. At Allergan, it was the 60/60 tool with Bo and Preeti. Here we call it Procurement Front Door. It's run by a company called Pierpont Holdings, and it's called an Enterprise Procurement Platform, EP Squared. And what it's designed to do is to make it 60 seconds easy for any stakeholder anywhere in the global world that you're a stakeholder is to find exactly the right procurement person to help them with their $100,000 or plus buying opportunity. 60 seconds. So they can't make the excuse anymore that I didn't know who to call in procurement because there's 300 people and I didn't know what the deal is. I've got a platform that smart workflows it to exactly the right person and makes it visible to them very quickly. And that's a game changer. 60 seconds easy. That's the first part of the tool. Then it also captures metrics. Metrics on, well, how much lead time did you actually give my team? right? Did you call me in less than 10 minutes, 10 days? Or did you give me the 60 days that I'm requesting for the population of stuff we should be involved in? And then I'm able to use those reports in an actionable way to actually communicate to stakeholders that, hey guys, I need more time to make sure my team can do the job. So I can include diverse, sustainable, lower risk, right? Whatever strategy we're trying to drive, I need the time to be able to include the right players into that mix. And so that's what this EP Squared platform does. It is a game-changing platform. By the way, I've gotten, no lie, 3 senior vice president level jobs because most of the companies that I've supported, they had before I got there, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of last minute, late notice, or not at all bypass stuff that if it went through this process, we were able to mitigate. So I believe, by the way, this is my secret sauce for being an SVP at a bunch of companies. And in fact, when I got interviewed for the CPO job at CSL Behring, the guy I interviewed with was a guy who had it at Biogen. And he said, hey, remember that tool you had at Biogen? And I said, yeah, the 60/60 tool, EP Squared tool. He goes, yeah, we need that here yesterday. Right? And that was the first meeting before he then offered me a position to work for him again. So that tool, game changer. And by the way, so you know, 50% less than 10 days is normal. And that would be across, for a $5 billion company spend wise, that'd be across probably 5,000 transactions in a given year where you're getting too little time to actually do your job, right? The contact information for EP Squared is there. And Levanaway at Pierpont Holdings, the CEO. That's the first one. And it fixes the 2 things, right? Then the second one is I call Tealbook. So Tealbook is this really cool company that has this supplier data set, right? 5 million plus suppliers, 2.6 million certificates, and a bunch of 600 million data attributes, right, on the supply-based ecosystem. So if you're trying to find a diverse supplier in a category that you've never had sourced in, and you need to find it fast, these guys have a AI-informed ML technology that allow you to find suppliers rapidly, so that if you got 10 days, you can actually, with Tealbook, you can find suppliers in 30 seconds to get after what you need without having to say, what's my WeBank log on so I can do a search on their debt platform. You can actually do it on this and get after it. And they are a game changer. The CEO at Tealbook is a woman by the name of Stephanie LaPierre. She is a rock star, ahead of her time lady. Her contact details are there. But Tealbook, if you need to find diverse suppliers rapidly and make sure they're included in the right opportunities at your company, they're the player to get after it. And then the last one is you need a Sherpa, right? I think you need someone to help you think through the strategy in the diverse markets in unique ways. And I think CN, which I showcased some of their data, and my good friend Lily will be more than happy to talk to anyone that's trying to get better at it. But if you want to get after your share of the $4 trillion of opportunity that exists, that in the diverse cultures, you might want to have a Sherpa, a leader. And then, sorry, yeah, Gladys.
Oh, no, just there's a time check. That's all.
Yeah, gotcha. Right, and then if you want to win, this is, I think, my last slide, and the rest is Q&A. If you want to win the war on talent, and you know that talent is increasing in diversity, you gotta get after it. If you want to better grow and develop and retain existing employees, you're going to need a Sherpa to help you through that. And if you want to develop strategies to maximize every employee's contribution to the company, irrespective of their difference, that's the number you would call. So those are the 3 technologies I would ask you to consider, that have, by the way, helped me meaningfully get after delivering value for the companies I've had the privilege of supporting. And I think they can help the population here. And then lastly, you know, you got to win in diversity, you got to see more opportunity with enough time, enough lead time to include diverse suppliers on it. Contact me at any of the following things on the right. Take a picture and I'll be more than happy to share with you anything that I've learned in my couple of decades of fumbling through it. Right. Know that though I am predisposed to be inclusive. I believe inclusivity makes you better, not because I read a stat on it, because I've seen it. And I'm delighted to help anyone on this call, you know, on their journey to be more inclusive for their respective companies. So with that, Q&A.
Kim, do you want to?
We are right at time. We have a couple questions. I'm sure we can steal it back from somewhere else. Okay. Walter, you've gotten tons of comments in our chat about how you're inspiring and your humor, and you've kept us all laughing, and thank you for sharing so many great stats, and you're obviously extremely knowledgeable in this area. But are you going to be sharing your slides with us? That was one question.
Absolutely. For those that want it, any one of the contact things that were listed, more than happy. You can ping me directly. I'll be more than happy to share with you any information on here.
As long as you give
and if you need me to tell the CEOs to expect a call of anything you heard in there that might be beneficial, we're more than happy to do that too.
As long as you share them with Kathy, she will make sure all the attendees can grab the slides.
Great.
One of the questions we had were, are any of your data, is it affected negative or positively by the immigrants that come over the border, maybe illegally to the US?
Actually, any of my data, well, the Bureau and Label Statistics, I'm assuming in order to work in the US, you need to have the right credential, need to be credentialed correctly to actually work in the US, and that's how they get the data. So the Bureau of Label Statistics data and the census data would likely be, the census data might be skewed because it could have, if they just do a count in a household, right? But the Bureau and Label Statistics stuff, if you're working, that stuff is usually pretty much locked down. So I think, no, it doesn't necessarily get adversely impacted by by any of the folks coming over the border. And since we are a 300 million person country, that influx is not a massive influx. It's a small one.
All right. Well, if anybody else has any questions, you can put them in the chat and we'll grab them. Kathy's able to grab them all and send them to Walter after the fact, just so we keep on time a little bit. But Walter, again, amazing presentation. You've gotten a million kudos in our chat, and we're very thankful. So I'm going to pass this back to Gladys.
Okay. Well, I think everyone says exactly what we're thinking. So we want to thank you, Walter, for your thought-provoking, very informational, and very engaging presentation. We look forward to getting the slides and to learning more. For our next segment, I would like to introduce George Jimenez. George is a procurement professional with over 10 years of experience working in various industries. In his current role as Senior Manager Global Procurement with the NBA, he oversees various categories such as marketing and facilities. George is an integral part of our Supplier Diversity Committee, and George will introduce our sponsors. Welcome, George.
Thank you, Kathy. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to see some familiar faces on this call. The ISM New Jersey Supply Diversity Committee would like to thank all of our sponsors who made this event possible. I'd like to introduce our title sponsor, Corcentric. Jennifer Olich, Vice President Advisory, is joining us today and will talk briefly about her organization.
Thank you, George, and thank you, Walt, as well. It's not the first time I have the opportunity to speak, and it's always incredibly energizing and engaging, and the content is always spot on. So again, thank you. Jennifer Ulrich, Vice President of Advisory from Corcentric. So Corcentric is an organization that we help to transform how your organizations purchase, pay, and get paid through an unmatched combination of technology, advisory services, managed services, and payments. And in terms of supplier diversity in particular, this is actually one of my favorite areas that we help organizations from a consulting perspective. So we actually come in and help organizations to set up their supplier diversity strategy, whether it's from the very ground up and really meeting the foundational concepts and tools to get going, as well as helping organizations wherever they might be in their journey to improve or go to the next step. Again, it's absolutely one of our passion areas. I love doing it. It's a lot of fun. It's engaging, and my team is always challenged by the new things that we're hearing. In fact, I'll be speaking with one of my clients at ISM World in just about a month about one of our case studies where we focus more on the data side of things and found some really intriguing things. And I hope that you'll be able to join us for that conversation. We're looking forward to really challenging the procurement status quo in that conversation, so it'll be interesting. But anyway, like I was saying, very excited to be here today and offer the title sponsorship for something that is so incredibly important to all organizations. And I've just been so excited to see it kind of take off over the last couple of years, and can't wait to see where it goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Up next is our VIP sponsor, first VIP sponsor, Daiichi Sankyo. Kim Castellucci will join us. She's an Associate Director, Procurement Operations.
Everyone, I'm Kim Castellucci, as George mentioned, and I am at Daiichi Sankyo in our US office in Basking Ridge, New Jersey. We are headquartered in Japan, Tokyo. We are a global pharmaceutical company, mid-size. Last time I checked, we were number 2. But the internet stats could be wrong. Maybe we're number 1 now. We are focused on oncology therapies, and I've been there almost 14 years. And I'm joined on this call with Vicky Yash, who leads our small business programs for the company. So I'm really proud to be a part of that, both here at the ISM as well as at our company. And we've done, Walter, again, your presentation was amazing. And we've been trying to do a lot of initiatives, including some ERGs, or we call them BERGs, Business and Employee Resource Groups. One of them is called Believe, and it's Black employees leading and inclusion, and I can't remember the whole thing, vision and empowerment. But these groups are just amazing, these affinity groups that are moving the needle. So hopefully we can still move the needle more together. And I'm just a proud member, as well as serving on this board of ISM. So thanks for the time.
Thank you, Kim. Our next sponsor, VIP sponsor, is ADP. Laurinda Thomas, Senior Director of Sourcing within Global Procurement.
Thank you, George, and good afternoon, everyone. I am Laurinda Thomas, and I manage the Supplier Diversity Program at ADP. I also have responsibilities for some of the spaces or some of the commodities in our non-IT space, and I have a team that works on things like print production. As you know, we print and pay 1 in 6 Americans, so my team has responsibilities for that. But I also manage the space of office supplies, medical, things related to American Express, and a bunch of other commodities. Even though I manage those things, supply diversity is my #1 and true and dear to my heart, and I do spend a lot of time and focus on opportunities. For those of you who may not be aware of who ADP is, we are actually headquartered in Roseland, New Jersey, and we are a comprehensive global provider of cloud-based human capital management solutions that unite HR, payroll, talent, time, tax, and benefit administrations. Our ADP Supplier Diversity Program ensures women, minorities, veterans, LGBTQ+, disabled-owned, service-disabled, and small businesses have equal opportunities to be included in ADP's strategic sourcing and procurement process. Some of the things that we buy include office supplies, hardware, software and computer peripherals, staffing services, relocation services, building maintenance and operational supplies, furniture and furnishings, travel and entertainment, and professional and consulting services. So there's a whole lot of opportunities for our diverse suppliers out there. We recognize that creating partnerships with diverse suppliers is a major competitive advantage and a powerful business tool. ADP Supplier Diversity mission is to build relationships with and purchase goods and services from diverse businesses that can achieve or help ADP achieve its growth objectives. If you would like to hear more about our program and our opportunities, please go out to adp.com. That's Apple David Paul, not ADT, the security system. And funny joke about that is I have been with ADP for 11 years and my mother still tells people I work for ADT. So with that being said, feel free to go out to adp.com, click on or search supplier diversity, and you'll get a list of all the things that we do purchase from diverse suppliers, as well as information on how to actually register on our portal. I will drop my personal email address in the chat as well, so you can feel free to contact me directly. Again, thank you, and super excited to be once again a VIP sponsor for today's event.
Thank you, Laurinda. Up next is our first friend sponsor, PSEG, Marisol Ramirez, Supply Diversity Manager.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It is truly a pleasure to be here. Public Service Enterprise Group is a publicly traded diversified energy company headquartered here in Newark, New Jersey, and we're one of the 10 largest electric companies in the US. We were founded in 1903, and Public Service Electric and Gas, PSEG, who you're more familiar with, is New Jersey's largest provider of electric and gas service, serving 2.2 million electric customers and 1.8 million gas customers, or nearly 3 out of every 4 people in the state. We also manage PSEG Long Island, and who operates the electric transmission and distribution system of the Long Island Power Authority with 1.1 million customers. Our supplier diversity program is well known. We have over 25 years in the industry, ensuring that we make an impact in the communities we serve. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a key component of our core values here at PSEG, and supplier diversity is no different. We look to do business with the communities we serve. And we are active in ensuring that we're doing business with minority, women, veteran, service-disabled veteran, and LGBTQ+ businesses throughout the state. We host 2 supplier diversity fairs through the year. The PSEG fair will be held virtual again this year, so look for more information on that to come out later this year. We are targeting for October. And our Long Island Fair is happening on May 18th. You can get most of our information on supplier diversity on our website at www.pseg.com/supplier diversity. I will drop it in the chat, and I will also leave you with my contact information. We are very active with the chambers of commerce throughout the state of New Jersey and our advocacy groups who we partner with to ensure that we are doing diverse business with diverse suppliers. And this year, I'm happy to announce that we launched our inaugural supplier diversity mentoring program with 4 diverse suppliers who are actually celebrating their graduation next week. So I'm very excited about that. But I'm very excited about supplier diversity. I always say it's procurement with purpose. I left an accounting career to do supplier diversity because it's that important and that beneficial to our economy. So I look forward to meeting you if I don't know you already. And if you have any questions, I'll be sure to leave you my contact information.
Thank you, Marisol. Our next friend sponsored is New York Life, Joy Wong, Corporate Vice President, Supply Diversity, Corporate Services.
Hello, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. I had the New York Life Supplier Diversity Program. It's great to see familiar faces and new faces this afternoon. I have a confession to make. I was nervous about this because last year I was moderating the supplier spotlight, and as I was being introduced, I lost connection. So I basically missed the entire introduction and reconnected just in time for the first pitch. But anyway, so I represent New York Life. It's a 177-year-old insurance company with a 20-year-old supplier diversity program, and I've led it in the past 10 years. We're excited to sponsor this event once again. We are passionate about this type of pitch event because we see it as a form of mentorship. I'm happy to share that I've witnessed or participated in the supplier spotlight since its inception 3 years ago. To continue the serial pun, I'm a serial supplier spotlight participant.
Thank you, Joy, and thank you to all our sponsors who've made this event possible. I'm told that we will now have a short 5-minute break, and we'll begin right after.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, welcome back, everyone. At this point, we're ready to kick off the Supplier Showcase. And I would like to introduce Bo Lee, who joined our ISM Diversity Committee earlier this year. Bo is a procurement lead working at AbbVie, a pharma company, for directs and operations sourcing. She also serves as AbbVie's Supplier Diversity Program New Jersey site advocate. Please join me in welcoming Bo Lee.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Gladys. Thanks so much for having me. It's my honor and pleasure to have this opportunity and ability to bring the impact to local communities, building greater economic resilience and social benefits. Now I'm so excited to start the next part of our program, Supplier Showcase. We have 4 suppliers today. They will have the opportunity to deliver a sales pitch in the virtual room full of our procurement executives. Then these 4 suppliers will receive feedback from a panel of 3 expert judges. They will help make our suppliers' pitches more effective. After the showcase is completed, we will have a Q&A session to our judge panel. So at the meanwhile, for our audience, please put your questions, comments in the chat panel. Before I hand over the stage to our judge, I would like to introduce Marisol Ramirez. She is our judge panel moderator. Marisol is the Supplier Diversity Manager for PSEG. Many of you already know that. And she also serves as the Secretary on the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities Supplier Diversity Development Council, and a board member of the New York and New Jersey Minority Supplier Development Council. It's a great honor to have you on the panel. Now I'd like to turn the program over to you, Marisol.
Thank you, Bowie. I appreciate it. It is truly a pleasure to be here with each of you, and I am honored for the opportunity to help moderate today's segment. I am honored to be joined by Laurinda Thomas, who is the Senior Director of Sourcing within Global Procurement at ADP. Laurinda manages the Supplier Diversity Program with responsibility for the development, implementation, and strategy as it relates to ADP's use of diverse businesses. Laurinda also manages spend in the non-IT commodity space with the responsibility for print production, real estate and facilities, office supplies, marketing, medical, promotional, and employee incentives. Welcome, Laurinda. We are also joined by Francisco Cortez, who I've personally had the pleasure of meeting him through the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and the Veterans Chamber of Commerce. Francisco is the chairman and CEO of the global multicultural communications firm, the Setroc Group, which is headquartered in New Brunswick and has offices in Newark, Trenton, and New York City. He is a proud U.S. Army veteran Having served at the Elite National Training Center in Fort Irwin, California, and the U.S. National Guard, and currently serves as the president and co-founder of the New Jersey State Veterans Chamber of Commerce, and has been appointed by Governor Murphy to the Restart and Recovery Council to assist with New Jersey's recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and the newly created Climate Change Green Economy Council. Thank you for your service, and thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure, Marisol.
So I'm going to be introducing each company and the person who's going to be doing your pitch. Once your logo goes up, you will have 10 seconds and then you'll begin your pitch. I wish each of you the best of luck, and we look forward to hearing from you. I'd like to first introduce Bancroft Capital, and forgive me if I mispronounce your name, Bill Mingione.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, this is not Bill Mingione. Unfortunately, Bill Mingione had a personal matter he had to take care of last minute. This is Ray Halley. I am a director of equities and business development here at Bancroft Capital. I work with Bill Mingione. He is my partner. Just quickly on me, I've been a 30-year veteran in the financial industry, and I transitioned into the veteran space to help service-disabled veterans transition for a second career, and that career is in finance. That leads me to Bancroft Capital. Bancroft Capital is a service-disabled veteran-owned broker-dealer. Our mission is very unique. We are the only service-disabled veteran-owned broker-dealer that has a veteran training program, a structured veteran training program to help disabled veterans transition to a second career following their first career serving our country. How we find these candidates? My CEO, Cal Quinn, and several other people here go down to Walter Reed and Fort Belvoir, meet with the candidates and play a transition seminar or financial game to show them that finance isn't that scary. You can do this. This is an opportunity for you to have a second career. Our veteran training program is very, very structured. It's a 4-tier pillar system. First is getting them licensed. You need to be licensed to be in this industry. That's the SIE Series 7 and Series 63. The second tier is mentoring. We have 5 different product lines we mentor our veterans in. They rotate in a 2 to 4 week period through all those different product lines, sit with the industry heads here to learn about finance, learn the language and the technology and what goes into being in finance. They could be a trader, a salesperson, or they could be in compliance or operation. They go through the gamut of our business. The third tier is networking. We partner with other business entities out there, and we try to make them understand that we can network and partner with you. And our fourth tier is the educational component, where our veterans have an opportunity to go into the accelerated MBA program at Villanova or DeSales University. How you can work with us in your supplier missions is introduce us to your treasury teams, your investment banking teams, as we have a credit facility, cash management products, debt and equity capital raise, and also share repurchase where we can help partner and diversify your needs. That is Bancroft Capital.
Thank you. We're saving the questions and answers for the end, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'd like to introduce our next company. It's Lockerbie and Company, and we are going to be learning from Stephanie Locker.
No, Marisol, I thought we wanted to do the feedback after each presentation.
I apologize. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I think it'll be helpful.
Okay. My apologies.
No.
So I'm going to turn over to Francisco for your feedback.
Thank you. I sat at the very chairs that you all are sitting at a few years ago, and as a person that was pitching, so to be at this end of it is an honor. First of all, the fact that your company focuses on assisting veterans is very noble. As you know, our brave men and women need it. Yeah. One of the things that veterans face major difficulty with when they transition is capital, whether to start a business or just money, because they transition from one duty base to another, and often veterans do not have the credit scores because they go from one place to another every 2 to 3 or 4 years. So it's commendable. And I'd like to talk to you guys afterwards to see how we can partner with the Veteran Chamber. One thing I would have, I love the pitch. It was clear, the 4 stages. I would have loved if it looked read. I would have loved if you would have rehearsed a little bit and kind of connected more with the audience and it wasn't so robotic, right? But that's hard to do and that takes a long time to practice. I also would have wished that maybe you would have took 5 seconds to highlight how your team and your company changed the life of one veteran, right? Give us an example of last year, we met this veteran and through connection, we now helped him X, Y, and Z. So maybe an example of how you changed the life of a serviceman or woman would have been great to hear. But overall, I love the pitch and very interesting in totality. So that was my only feedback.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. Laurinda?
Yes, so I agree with a lot of what Francisco said. You know, 2 minutes is not a long time. And normally when you do get the opportunity to meet with corporations or businesses, and it is via a pitch or a matchmaker session, you do have a limited amount of time. And what you have to do is grab my attention to want me to come to you and ask for an additional meeting, right? That follow up. A lot of times I'd like to hear more information about how you got started, you know, what made you or the owner of this company start or think about this. The initiatives that you have are great as far as what you're doing for veterans and how you're helping them. But, you know, what prompted you to do that? Also agreeing with Francisco, you know, a success story, how you have helped. You know, it takes practice, but, you know, you look at it as an elevator pitch, that opportunity to get in front of someone and have that opportunity to do your best to present to them. So wonderful job and thank you.
So I have a lot of the same comments that my peers have. One thing that I'm always, when I tell people about having their elevator pitch ready is make sure there's always one identifiable thing that's going to make me remember you, right? And I know that this is a short span, so you spoke very fast and gave a lot of information, which is great because we have a sense of what your company does, but a personal touch to that pitch would have made me remember what your company did for a veteran. And I think that would go a long way because you really want to have at least one point that somebody's going to remember and say, yeah, I know a company that does that based on what they've done for someone else. So that's something to consider. And you might not always have 2 minutes. You may have 10 minutes in matchmaking sessions, so you'll have a little bit more time, but that's something to think about and just have some of those examples. Okay, well, thank you again. All right, so we're ready to reset the clock and move on to the next company. The next company, as I mentioned, is Lockerbie & Company, and we are being represented by Stephanie Loker. Stephanie, are you there?
I saw her.
Are you on mute?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute.
Okay.
Can you guys see my screen okay?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Good afternoon. My name is Stephanie Locker, and I'm the founder and CEO of Lockerbie & Co. We're headquartered within a hub zone in northern New Jersey. I started Lockerbie in 2019 after over 15 years of experience, including leading transformations as a Big 4 and Big 3 consultant. During that time, I saw a huge need to create a diverse company that is led by diverse individuals with a strong focus on sustainability. This allows us to deliver projects with a human-centric approach from the top down, producing more effective, lasting results. We're a small team that is comprised of 70% women, 50% minority, 50% identify as LGBTQ, and 30% identify as individuals with a disability. Several members of our team speak multiple languages and have lived in different countries. We care about who we partner with, so 80% of our spend is with diverse suppliers. Our team mostly work remotely in order to reduce our carbon footprint. All of our employees are empowered to learn more about personal sustainability and leading projects with a diverse, equitable, and inclusive perspective. We have 4 core services: procurement with a purpose, PMO and project management, change management, and post-merger integration. At Lockerbie, we're your partner throughout the entirety of your project from end to end. We develop your strategy, drive implementation, and ensure sustainable, measurable results. We understand the value of being flexible. So as your needs change, we change with you. Are you ready for a partner that will ensure your success? Thank you for your time today. Please visit us at letsgetstrategic.com.
Thank you, Stephanie. Laurinda?
Hi, Stephanie. How are you? So thank you. It was great that you were able to include slides, and the fact that you presented them and kind of allowed me to read them as you continue to speak was great and wonderful. I do appreciate that you specifically talked about the makeup of your company, right? Who is your workforce? You hire LGBTQ associates, you hire women, and that's very important. Sometimes after I speak to different businesses, I will go out to their websites and I'll see what the makeup of their board looks like. So that's very important to a lot of corporations, that you're not only a diverse owner, but you also employ diverse associates, and you're really making a difference. I would have liked to see an example or hear about an example of maybe some of the work that you specifically done with another customer, just to let me and help me understand potentially where I could position you within my company, right? You would tell me what you've done, what type of work it may have done, and a light bulb could have gone off in my head that I have a procurement buyer that I could necessarily, suit you with, or a different business or stakeholder. So that would have been helpful. Very informative. I know 2 minutes is a short amount of time, but I think you did a great job, and thank you.
Thank you, Laurinda. Francisco?
I have to agree with Laurinda, where an example, you have to play at the heartstrings, right? You have to connect with your audience, and maybe providing a case study of who you helped and how you helped them as a company would have been fantastic. Also, a company, right? At least for me, when I speak about my company, it's like my baby. I'm so excited about it. I just want to cry, and I want to tell the stories of how we help people. And I would have liked to maybe see a bit more of that through this. You said you created it 15 years ago. Tell me what you've done in 15 years, and why are you so excited about today? More importantly, why are you excited about tomorrow? And how are you going to change the world? So kind of just telling your story a bit more and telling us your why would have been helpful. But overall, I think you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
So thank you, Stephanie. It's interesting sitting on these panels with judges, because I feel like sometimes we're all experienced and built from the same cloth, because we have a lot of the same feedback for you. I do appreciate that presentation. I do appreciate the fact that you did break down the diversity within your company, because that is important to me, as it is to Laurinda, and I'm sure Francisco. And like Laurinda, I do go, if I don't hear it from you initially, I do research on what the background is of the company, of the board. And I do appreciate that you shared that. Like they've said, those personal experiences, or those validations of clients you've worked with, those success stories, those wins, are critical to painting and I say in quotes, full picture of your company, right? It allows us to be able to relate to what product you provide and how it's been put into action. So if you could build that into your presentation, that would be great. I'd also work on, and I love that you shared information, but try to sound more, not as rehearsed, but more relaxed and more Like, you know this like the back of your hand. And I think for me, it comes off a bit more, I don't know what's the correct word to put, but not as rehearsed. Like, you know your business, you can talk to it at any time, and it's relaxed for you. It's like second nature.
Thank you all for your feedback. I appreciate it.
Okay, and resetting the clock and moving right along, I am happy to introduce SGW Integrated Marketing, Frank Giarantano. Frank, are you there? Are you on mute?
Yes.
I was. I'm not now. I'll begin now, I guess. Okay. So, hello, my name is Frank Giarantano. I am the Senior Partner and Chief Marketing Officer of SGW Integrated Marketing Communications. We are a minority women-owned small business with WeBank and MSDC and other certifications you have seen on our capability statement. We're located in Morris County, and thank you for making the time to meet with me today. In addition to marketing strategy, our services include the development of advertising, media planning, video production, web design, sales materials like PowerPoint and other presentations, as well as brochures and online promotional literature. As a small business, our account groups are expert in the industries that they serve because we believe that we must invest time in our craft, and it's what our clients expect. We have a diverse roster of clients, and those clients tell us that a key reason we were hired is SGW's commitment to their business, which was evident to them from the very first meeting. The ideal SGW client is one that recognizes the value of working with a small business that's nimble and whose owners are active in the business. A small business that develops not cookie cutter, but creative and unique marketing solutions that stand out and get attention. These clients appreciate that SGW gives them the mind share and focus that they've not gotten in other places. And in turn, our customer retention rate is consistently above 90%. Examples of clients are Watts Technology, a 5,000 employee B2B firm that has awarded us with more and more of their brands over time in the building technology space, on through to Nestle Health Science, where we work to develop sales collateral materials for digital and other presentations. And then other firms like colleges and hospitals. We offer your firm the benefit of diversifying your supplier base in what is likely a new area, marketing. You'll be partnering with an agency that will bring value to your marketing team with a full commitment to addressing their goals and pain points. Excellent service, sound marketing strategy, effective execution, and results you expect. It all adds up to what we stand for here at SGW, simply great work, and that's our value proposition. So I'm asking for an opportunity to provide a marketing proposal for an initiative or a new project within your firm that would benefit from a fresh approach. Can we talk about some of your more significant pain points, please?
Okay.
You're on mute, Marisol.
Thank you. Thank you for your pitch. One thing I want to point out is that you went over time. They didn't keep the clock going, but
I was watching for the clock.
Yeah, you went over time. So just be mindful of time when you have a time constraint.
Thank you.
To me, it was good. It started out relaxed, and then it turned into rehearsed for me, but that's just me. And I know a lot of these may be rehearsed, but I'm a conversationalist. I need to connect with you somewhat on a personal level, and I need to feel like you're going to grab my attention by not sounding so robotic. So that's just something that's important to me. If we were going to have a conversation, make sure you grab me by your person, like be personable, because one, that tells me you're comfortable talking about your company, and two, you know what you're talking about and are able to be relaxed in any environment, no matter how much time you have. So that's my feedback.
Thank you.
Francisco?
Again, I strongly agree. Now you're talking my language as a marketer, right? when you sit in front of a client, you have to kind of explain on why they should choose you to tell their story, right? And you, to Marisol's point, you started very conversationally, and then you went into like stats, which is great because we want to hear who you're working with. You highlighted your clients, which is great. It gave me a better background on who you guys were. Maybe highlighting a bit more what your value add to a campaign was. The one thing that, again, is tricky in the time allotted is a case study. But you could have done something like, our agency was awarded a contract last week by the Department of Health, Cancer on Commission. Cancer is the leading, one of the leading causes of death in New Jersey, and we're super proud to be a part of that through our marketing services. 10 seconds. Here's my example of how we're helping. You know what I'm saying? So that would have been helpful as well. But overall, great job.
I actually have one of those examples I could have put in. Thank you.
Could have, but now you're too late to do that.
But I should have.
Yeah.
Next time.
All right. Thank you, Francisco. Laurinda?
Yeah. Hi, Frank. I don't know if I missed it, but did you mention how long you've been in business? How long SGW's been in business?
I actually didn't have it in there. It's over 20 years. I did not have that
Okay.
in there.
That's very important, right? That's a significant fact that you definitely want to know, or let corporations know that you're pitching to, that you have a long-standing value as it relates to how long you've been in business and who you've worked with. I appreciate the fact that you did mention who you were certified with. And I also like that you gave examples of some of the customers or businesses you worked with in the past. For me, that lets me know if there are businesses or corporations that may do similar services to my company, or you've worked with a company of my scale and size, right? That to know that you'd have an opportunity to work with us and be able to manage and handle any of the requirements that we threw to you. I agree. You started off relaxed, and then I think you tensed up a little bit and you went a little more monotone. But even when sometimes I'm presenting, there are certain facts that I do need to rehearse more, but I try to also throw in things where I am comfortable with stating that I can give that eye-to-eye contact and then go back into some of the major details. So overall, you provided a lot of great information. I go back to, provide an example as well. What have you done? It gives me the opportunity to really think a little deeper about where I can actually find an opportunity for you. But overall, really great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you. And our final participant, who I look forward to hearing from, is Portland Spreadwork, also known as Excel Rainman. And we have Jen Portland with us today.
Hi, everyone. Have you ever spent too much time in a spreadsheet? Regardless of the industry, most people are not using Microsoft Excel to their advantage and end up with issues such as manual entry, making mistakes, repeating mundane tasks to generate the same reports over and over again, zero time to expand upon existing analysis. Additionally, we're so dependent on these workbook owners to get us what we need yesterday. And there's no contingency plan if that colleague wins the lottery and leaves you with a rogue workbook. Well, worry no more. My name is Jen Portland, and I'm founder of Excel Rainman. We have been in business for 14 years and help companies with anything spreadsheet related, with a huge focus on automating those repetitive tasks. All of our solutions are custom, and I like to think of us as a mail merge on steroids. We are certified as both woman-owned and disadvantaged business enterprises. As our business is super niche, we do not fit into the typical buckets for RFPs and commodity codes, but once companies see some of our sample work, they know they can find a place for our custom solutions within their organization. So we would love to continue the conversation with you and your colleagues to show you some demos. This way, when a spreadsheet something comes to mind, you know who to call.
Thank you, Jen. Laurinda?
Thank you, Jennifer. Jen. So it looks like you had about 30 seconds left. So you could have continued and given us a little more information. I will say, coming out of the box, right? You came out with a concern. You came out with a problem that many of us probably have and deal with working with Excel, or like you said, that one person in the company that knows how to do something, and once they're gone, then we're in trouble. So you caught my attention from the beginning because there was insight of a problem, and you basically came out with how to solve that problem. I like the fact that you put a little humor into it, right? Sometimes we have to loosen up, tell a joke or two, just to be relatable. And I appreciate that you did that. Again, you also did a great job of providing information of who you're certified with, how you're certified. Again, would have loved to hear more information about how you got started, what made you, start this business or work with this business. And then also with that, more information about how do you market your company, right? You said you're a niche solution. So how do you find your businesses? Do they find you? Just a little more detail around that, because like I said, you did have an additional 30 minutes. But overall, again, you were attention grabbing from the beginning, your first few words, and I felt that was really helpful and informative. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laurinda. Francisco?
Jennifer, so Excel is my kryptonite, right? So we do a lot of government contracting, and they involve preparing Excels. So I would have loved to bring someone, you had me, right? I would have loved to bring someone on who could help me solve my problem, right? And you explained that a bit, but I just would have probably wanted to learn. You said you were niche, it is a very niche business. But I would have maybe loved to hear a stat, 65 of Americans, it's been surveyed, that don't understand Excel or have difficulty presenting an idea to a corporation because they can't get past the nuances of Excel. We solved that for you here at, so I would have wanted something like that where, okay, I need her. Right after this call, I'm going to partner with her because I have a contract and I don't want to deal with Excel. So maybe an example highlighting how, bringing you onto the team could help me, or someone that you have helped in the past. But overall, you did a great job. That's all I have. And then more importantly, again, that someone highlighted, Laurinda, 30 seconds is key. You could have done a lot with those 30 seconds. So I suggest, just be mindful of the time that you have to try to tell the fascinating story behind why you created your company.
Thank you.
So I've had the pleasure to work with Jen through the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities Supplier Development Diversity Council. And those 30 seconds, Jen, you could have used to talk about how you helped us and saved us over 30 hours of work into 30 minutes of work just by helping us create a spreadsheet to populate our data for our report. Those 30 seconds could have been critical to share that story, because you have a great presentation. Your product is not one that I know anyone else to provide, honestly. And it's a great service. But an example of how your service has helped someone and back it up with time savings is it can make the difference of whether we call you or not to discuss doing business with you. So I think that could have been highlighted just as an example, not because I do sit on the board, but I have firsthand knowledge on that project and what it took, and Excel Rayman did a phenomenal job in helping us automate our reporting data and saved us so much time. And that's important for people to know, because that is your business.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to open it up for questions and answers. Kim and Vicky, do we have any questions from the audience?
I don't really, I didn't get any questions for any of these guys other than let me see. Can you share your contact info, websites after your presentations, which it appears that most of you have done, I believe.
We're also going to share all of our presenters, as well as everyone who applied and didn't present, we're going to share with all of the attendees anything that we get from the suppliers.
So is there anyone that would like to ask a question that they may have live to any of the presenters?
I'll start. Besides, because I saw this in the chat earlier, besides the portals and the hoops that sometimes you have to go through just to talk to someone, what is the biggest challenge that you've had? And anybody can take this from our awesome presenters. What's the biggest challenge outside of all the many portals that we have developed inside our companies that everyone has to learn and fill out, complete just to get your name in there?
My biggest challenge has been getting past that point, understanding how to develop a relationship, develop a contact while not being a nuisance. You don't want to have a bad name or be that person that just keeps knocking, but yet you want to make sure you're being as proactive as you can be. And on top of that, I think one thing for our business makes it a challenge is that marketing, you invest time in your agency. And we have that with our clients. We've invested years, and it's a partnership. And so it's hard for new agencies to break in. And maybe that's been probably my challenge and seeking ways to communicate. Here's a way you can do that without upsetting your apple cart. And I continue to try to develop that.
Jen, you had your hand up.
Did you say Jen?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I guess I mentioned this earlier when we had a prep session for the event. I like to be respectful of when I meet with someone in charge of supplier diversity and procurement to go into the portal. But for us, it's often, it's a lot of work to go into the portal, and the portal hasn't really been a place where we find opportunities because, as I mentioned, we don't really fit with RFPs and commodity codes, even though we look and we fill things out. So we sometimes spend a lot of time updating every time our certificates expire, or I should say renew, because everyone has different portals. So it's just trying to figure out, are we spending the appropriate amount of time doing those things? And also, as Frank mentioned, the reach out without driving people crazy, but it's our job to stay in front of others as well.
I agree with you, Jennifer. I noticed that with professional services, the portals don't really align. It's more, you sell a widget or something that can be very easy to identify. It's easier for them to use, the tags or whatever's associated. And then also the timing, it's, an average of 18 months, I see, from beginning of conversation to get a contract.
So as a supplier diversity professional, I will say, Stephanie, your time frame is on target. It does, I can say at PSEG, it does take us a while to onboard a supplier, anywhere from 12 to 18 months. And that just comes from building the relationship and going through our pre-qualification. As much as I appreciate the portals, the supplier portals, they also are limited for us as supplier diversity professionals, because we do get so many into our portal that we don't really know. Sometimes we don't know the supplier just off the paper unless we've met them. So what I can offer you is, and I know it can get exhausting, but take advantage of these matchmakers and supplier diversity fairs to go in and meet the supplier diversity personnel and the procurement personnel. I can speak from PSEG. We have a supplier diversity fair every year. Due to COVID, we've had to tailor it to more of a matchmaking where we've actually invited suppliers based on our needs over the next 12 to 18 months, because let's be realistic, we don't like to waste anyone's time. And we know what we're going to be procuring in the next 12 to 18 months. So over the last 2 years, because it's been virtual, we've done it by invite only. But normally in a non-COVID world, in a regular environment, we have prime suppliers, advocacy groups, other utilities, peers there tabling, so that you get the opportunity to meet with as many companies in addition to PSEG. Because if you're going to come, you're going to try to get business with us, but we're not there's no shame in our game. We're happy to share the pie with everybody. So if you aren't a match for us and you're a match for one of our peer utilities, it's a win-win, right? It's a win for them, it's a win for you. So either way, we're making a difference and we made the connection. So just participate in those as much as you can. They are exhausting to attend, a lot of them, but we also feel it on the supplier diversity side as well, because we're attending those events as well. And it's about building the relationship. There's a way that you can build a relationship without being overly aggressive. So just be consistent. And that's the best advice that I could give you from the supplier diversity end. Laurinda, I see your hand up, and then Joy.
Yes, so Marisol, I agree with you 100%, right? So Stephanie, for instance, last year we met in November at a conference, and I know it's very exhausting, like you noted, and Jen, about the portals, but those are significant and they are needed for us. I will tell you, and it is important that you know that I do look to assisting and helping diverse businesses that I meet via functions like this, matchmakers, networking, because I've had the opportunity to meet you one-on-one, face-to-face, virtually or in person, right? It gives you a chance to connect. Normally there's something that you do that I remember about you. So when there is an opportunity, I think about you first, right? And I rather have an opportunity or give an opportunity to someone that I've personally met with, vetted, asked questions to, versus going to the portal and not really having any idea of who that business may be, right? And not have the detail, not have them be able to provide or know who they've worked with in the past, how big their business is. I might have that data, but that one-on-one, that personal relationship is also very important. And I'm very honest and realistic as well. For every vendor that wants to meet and do business with ADP or any other corporation, there's 20 to 30 more also knocking on our doors, sending us emails, giving or leaving cold calls every day. So you have to be patient, but you also have to stay connected. I tell people, reach out to me every couple of months to see if there's an opportunity. Not only does it refresh my memory about you and your company and organization, but maybe by that point I've spoken to someone in the business and they do have an opportunity. So there's different ways of going about it, and you just have to, you know, remain driven and don't get discouraged when maybe you don't hear back, or you do call after call and you haven't received any feedback as of yet.
Joy, do you want to unmute?
Yes, thank you. So, and I agree with everything that all my corporate peers have said, but what I want to emphasize is, you know, I commend the 4 presenters today and the past ones in the last 3 years. This is a way for you to show yourself to a bigger audience. This is not knocking on door, cold calls. This is not one-on-one reaching out, but getting an appointment. This is your opportunity to present to a wide audience. In this case, I see 77 participants listening to you. All these folks are potential clients. And I always remind at these events that, you know, remember that your target is not just corporations like ADP or New York Life or Chubb. Your target here are the other MBE or the other diverse vendors in this audience. So always remember that, and I think you know, try to focus actually your energy on which is the best match for you. And I think that's what I always encourage. Like, you know, don't spend your time if you think you're not gonna get into that company. Like, focus your energy in following up with the ones that like you really feel that are a good match for your capabilities. So, and also I think in terms of participation, just being here. The rest of you who did not, you know, pitch this year, maybe next year, learn from this suppliers who had presented, because there's always a lot of, you know, nuggets to get from the presentation, and you know, look at it as like when it's a real presentation that you're doing to a company, you'll be ready. You'll be able to hone your experience. You get to get tips from, you know, the corporations here and also from the fellow diverse vendors. So just wanted to say that.
You lost her sound?
Did you?
Gladys, can you hear Joy?
Yeah, Joy, are you speaking now?
Not anymore.
Oh, yeah, I think your sound cut out
Ah, okay.
at
Sorry
the
about
very end.
Yes, but thanks for the opportunity. I really love this event. I think, suppliers continue to attend this. Show your face if you can during the Q&A, because that's a way for us to remember you. Sometimes it takes several visits or meetings to remember your capabilities. They're always, like I said, there'll always be a piece that will remember about you, but it's the building of that meetings over time and the regular touch base. Like I'm a confession to make here. We get a lot of emails. We don't get to answer every single one regularly, but we see those vendors. We pay attention to them. And even if we don't respond to you, if we know that you're a good match for another corporations, we actually recommend or share those capabilities to our corporate peers. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, Joy, I agree. There's been many times where I've received communication from corporate partners, utility peers, locally and nationally, looking for recommendations. And if I have established a relationship with the vendor and I, feel good recommending them, by all means, I am happy to make that recommendation even if PSEG does not have a need at the moment. So I always say that the most important part is the relationship building, right? Your capabilities will show themselves to us through our qualification process. And if you're qualified to do work with our company, there may be an opportunity to be invited to an RFP. However, relationship is key. Relationship is where it happens. Because not only are we building relationships with you, we've built relationships with our peers among all the companies. With, like, Joy and I work on the NY, NJ, MSDC. Laurinda and I have run in the same circles. Francisco and I run in the same circles. So we work together and we help one another out in that respect, and who's to say if a supplier comes to me and I know that they're not a fit for PSEG, but I know they're a fit for ADP or for Joy's company, of course I'm going to refer them. So those relationships are key. So just if you can build that relationship in a way that's going to be beneficial for everybody, it's going to work. And I say to your advantage, not saying that you're going to get guaranteed work, but to your advantage that you'll get exposure, and that's what you need.
Any questions in the chat, Vicki, or no?
No questions, no.
It's okay.
Any questions for the judges in general?
Right.
Anything you want to know? Or from some of our other partners on the call?
Okay.
I would ask Francisco, since he was one of our in-person presenters. It is very different doing this virtually. For us, it was so much more fun, obviously, in person, like jumping on stage and passing a microphone. It's hard to do this virtually. It's hard for you guys presenting. It's hard for us. Not that we're not listening, but it's just difficult, I think, to all of your point about making that relationship on a screen. But Francisco, since you did sit on that side and present on a stage live, would you have any tips or whatever now in our new virtual world different from that time that you were live?
Absolutely. So the one thing that I do remember vividly was Kim holding a timing hook. So that terrified me, and I made sure I didn't go over time. So the fact that I don't get to see that long hook on the camera is satisfying. So that's great. But to your point, Kim, one of the things as a business owner as well that I've had to do is adjust the way I operate my company on a virtual sense. So the way I present in person, I've had to figure out ways to captivate the audience that I'm speaking to equally on the screen. And that's not only for my team members, but also for everyone else that I work with. So I've had to adjust, and I have to convey that to you guys as well. We don't know. I mean, there's a lot of events and things that looks like it's getting back to normal, but master the screen, right? Get a cool looking Zoom background, something that speaks to your audience. Make sure that your setting is inviting and captivating. I've seen some of my clients or even personal people that I work with that most of the conversation was about their Zoom background. Like they get creative and they give me ways to like captivate and connect with them. So I just urge you to master the new way of doing business, I guess, if it's, and the other thing that I'd like to stress is your network will become your net worth. Continue to build that relationship that many on this call have said. And one thing between, for me at least, when you build a network, a relationship, make it genuine. Don't reach out to me once a year, and then when you need something, send me an email on LinkedIn and, hey, can you help me with this? No, I can't, I'm sorry. I'm probably gonna help the other 10 people who've been continuously reaching out to me. And that's very difficult as a business owner because we don't have a lot of time. We're doing the accounting, the HR, the sales pitching, the servicing of the contract, and then you add another element. But I have to say that most of the contracts that I have been awarded in my company early on with very little experience was because this person knew that person, and then we're happy with our work and related that to another person, and it was just a trickle effect. So I stress your network is going to become your net worth. So continue to do that virtually. Now that you don't have to drive 2 hours, take advantage of how you're going to present yourself and make it memorable. But there is a difference between virtual, but it's the new norm. So great question, Quinn. Okay.
So there are 2 questions in the chat, and I know we have 5 minutes before we wrap this up, but I'm going to see if we can get to at least one of them. Laurinda, I'm going to throw this to you. There's a question to the panel. It says, in a pitch situation, is showing nervous energy a positive or a negative?
Sorry, I had to unmute. So I get nervous every time before I present, right? And it's whether it's in front of you know, a large group or a small group. Sometimes there's that nervous energy. I don't think it's a negative, right? I think many cases you start out a little nervous and then you start to relax. So I never hold that against anyone. As long as you can clearly get your message and your point across, that's what is important to me, right? You're coming to sell your company. You're coming to express why you're the best, why we should work with you. So with that, be energetic as possible, right? It may not come up in the beginning, but as you get more comfortable, show why you deserve this opportunity. And this is your baby. This is your bread and butter. You started it for a reason. So just be positive and just be really excited about the message you're trying to convey. The nervousness will go away. Sometimes you'll get more lax once the company starts asking questions. So it's okay. We all go through it, and don't take it as a negative, and no one will hold it against you.
Great point. Because I could relate to that today. I was nervous coming in as moderator because this was my first time. And sometimes I start out shaky, but at the end, you can't stop me from talking. So it happens to everybody. But as long as you start to feel comfortable in yourself and in your topic, you'll be fine. And you can portray that message. All right. So the last question that I see here, and this might not be able to be answered in 3 minutes. However, it says, how do you engage with DEI stakeholders who aren't as responsive as you'd like or seemingly just going through the emotions? Sometimes I feel like folks in DEI may talk the talk, but not walk the walk. Ooh. Okay. I agree with you. Some may talk the talk, and they might not walk the walk. But I always say, if you talk the talk and your results show that, then you know you're putting in the work and what you're doing is just. However, you have to be, I think it also has to be a genuine thing. As someone who is in the DEI scope, one of the things that I I thrive on is authenticity. And if I can truly see in speaking with you that you're passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I see you out there doing the work, and I see you out there meeting the people, and I see the growth that your company is having with diverse suppliers, then I know that you know you're doing the work. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard connecting, and sometimes it's hard for DEI personnel to even get that responses from their lines of business, who they actually have to do work with, and who are the true decision makers in getting diverse suppliers to do business with the company. So if you feel that they may be going through the emotions, gauge on how that person is on each interaction with them. It could have been just that day. But if that's the type of consistent representation that you're going, maybe try, and I'm not saying go above that person. By all means, do not go above the DEI person, because sometimes that can backfire. But just ask questions. I've had individuals ask me questions in terms of what exactly it is that we're doing and how we can, how we show our growth. And I back it up with statistics, with facts. But most of the people who know me, if you know me, what you see is what you get. I am as authentic as they get, but that's how I feel like you can combat that. Laurinda, do you have any?
Yeah, I agree. I know we're at time, but I agree with you 100%, Marisol, right? So I know a lot of companies have started or initiated DE&I programs as of recently based off of things that have happened over the past 2 years, or they have put strategies in place to, get new DE&I officers. Yesterday, I heard a stat that just as many D&I officers that, start engaging, they leave companies or they no longer have those positions. So you have to ask yourself, why? Is there something wrong there? It starts at the top. And you have to have leadership buy-in from the very top. And that's the CEO level and that's the board level. And that's where you make a difference. So just think about it like that. You will encounter people that are just going through the motions, right? And for supplier diversity specifically, I see people like Joy and Marisol who are at the events and conferences that I am, and you really know who is there to support and who really wants to make a difference and an impact. And I feel that's who you kind of cater and gear yourself towards and still try to make the difference with those who are not quite there yet. So it's a work in progress.
Okay. So in the interests of timing, and unfortunately I have to cut this off, I do want to take a moment not only to thank all the participants, particularly our presenters who were brave enough to step up and face the clock and hopefully got a lot of feedback as a result of it. Our expert panel for your thoughtful and enlightening comments that I think we're all going to walk away with. And I would also like to just mention the suppliers who did not get a chance to present, but who we hope got a lot out of it and maybe get a chance next time. That includes Ask Consulting, Envision To Be Well Inc., Pride Veteran Staffing, Ladasca Manufacturing, McPherson Berry and Associates, Multimedia Promos LLC, Purple Link, Ruzau Graphics, Modat Video Productions, Employment Horizons, and Market Smiths Inc. ISM New Jersey will be sending a follow-up email to all the participants and everyone on this call with a link to an opportunity to apply for educational credits. And it'll also have a link to all the diverse suppliers capability statements, including the ones that presented. So in closing, and on behalf of ISM New Jersey and the committee, I want to thank you all for making this another exciting event. Thank you especially to our keynote speaker, Walter Charles, for your amazing data-rich and timely presentation, to our panelists and supplier presenters, and to the audience members who all actively participated by submitting questions and providing feedback. I want to do a special call out to Kathy Perna, our ISM New Jersey forward-thinking strategic executive director par excellence. Without Kathy, a lot of our events would just never happen. Last and certainly not least, on behalf of ISM New Jersey and especially the Supplier Diversity Committee, I want to thank our sponsors, Corcentric, ADP, Daiichi Sankyo, New York Life, and PSEG for not only sponsoring today's event, but for helping sponsor our upcoming in-person, yay, meetup on Wednesday, May 18th at the Hanover Marriott Hotel in East Hanover, New Jersey from 5 to 7. Everyone's invited, and we welcome you to come connect with old friends, to make new ones, to network, to nosh, yep, there's going to be food there, and generally to enjoy an evening of camaraderie. It's a way to take the wonderful feeling, at least the one I have after this call, and extend it. On behalf of ISM New Jersey and the Supplier Diversity Committee, have a great rest of the day. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Gladys. Thanks for